start. If you haven't had a chance to, you can take a peek through that and open up the floor. Global warming, is it happening? Is it good? Is it bad? Are we at fault? What do you guys have to say?
To open it up, there are patterns on the planet that change over time, and that is seen throughout our glacial record of moving through times of, we're now in a great time of the third glacial period, meaning it's a pretty iceless planet, relatively. However, with that being said, my understanding from the sources I've seen and the learning I've done is what we're doing isn't necessarily, what we're doing is accelerating the natural rate of change that would be happening, and the problem is that the world's ecosystems aren't able to adjust at the rate that we've accelerated it to. So you have species that can't move as fast. So you have coral reefs that can't move as fast enough and are subsequently perishing under this pressure. And that, coupled with many other environmental pressures of pollution and overfishing and over-harvesting, are converging in a global extinction, a major global extinction, which to me is stopped by the point why we're, for me, why we're conscious of stopping climate change is to protect species. That's one of them, that's where I come from.
That last question is kind of interesting to me, like why do you care about climate change? What bothers you? What bothers you about climate change? It's like a different conversation every day.
Like as it's an emotional issue for people, not just a scientific issue.
Okay, it's like personally, a lot of climate change things are slowly being affecting us, and like, is it for future generations? Is it about other species? Is it about like from what stems my
Human suffering?
Yeah, human suffering, other suffering. What are all those? What are the motivations behind that? Care about all of them.
You can't really differentiate it. It's something's happening. With the amount of stuff we've been spewing for 200 years, can't help but have some. It's like a semi-closed system. It can't help but have some impact. I'm shocked with it. And the species dying, it must be this amount. But if everything's dying around us, like what I would pick up from this Elon is that for me, the climate change, look, there's no way for me to really know. I'm not a climatologist, and there's so much information out there, whether it's human-made, whether it's not made. But if to stop climate change, you had to, pollute the ocean, then I might say, wait a second, that's a big look there. But the stopping the climate change seems to be actually taking actions that are also will be very important and helpful and significant in terms of a much wider, broader range of things that are actually happening. That we know whether or not climate change is a little hard to tell because it's happening over a long period of time and different data. Maybe it's not hard to tell maybe why it's happening, but the system that's been created now, where Russia is going to fish out the Indian Ocean of all its fish in order to sell it to Mexico, is also part of the tikkun that we have to do for climate change. Will also make us look better, look more closely at that. So I see it as part of a larger issue of having to sort of start to begin to understand that we can't just do anything. That what we do has many, many effects, and I don't see a downside.
So in a sense, you're saying having global warming be the driving motivator of our changing our life patterns positively reinforces other positive change.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I tend to agree with Miko's said that it's not necessarily so clear, exactly to what degree humans, for instance, like greenhouse gases are causing climate change, but it is clear that humans have a very strong impact on the environment, and that by changing our practices, making them more environmentally friendly, we can have an impact on many wide areas of and hopefully reverse some of the environmental damage. And it's not. One point I want to emphasize, it's not just about greenhouse gases. There's many other areas where humans are, affecting the climate. In fact, there are some studies that suggest that land surface changes, such as cutting down forests, changing land from agricultural to urban, setting up building roads, etc., may be more responsible for climate change. Greenhouse gases, and it's certainly responsible for other topics, especially flooding in certain areas, possible droughts in other areas.
Before it goes too much into the general human impact on the environment, I think it's important to try to make a distinction here between looking at specifically climate change as the issue, or where does climate change fit in the range of all these other issues of overfishing and deforestation and different kinds of pollution and all these sorts of things. Also because, in terms of, it's a win-win situation to try to fight climate change, there's certainly opinions that it's not, in the sense that we do have a finite amount of resources and sort of policy capital to move towards environmental change. And there are people who say that if we do everything that the environmentalists sort of dream of, what the Kyoto protocols, and if we did all this other stuff just geared towards carbon offsets and climate change, we still might have complete collapse of fisheries, complete collapse of soils, genetically engineered organisms might cause massive unpredictable die-offs in the environment. And that's if it becomes much colder in the next 10 years. So there's a question of resource allocation as well. Is this the paradigm that we want to guide our trying to shift our collective human policy towards the environment?
I think one of the reasons that it could be a good paradigm is because you can't regionalize it. I mean, that way it could be good or it could be bad. I don't know. Yeah. But that's one of the very strong, and maybe why it kind of blows up in this kind of intensified globalization and borders that become less relevant.
The act of working together to fix this would be part of the people.
It's inherently a tragedy. It's a real tragedy of the commons issue. And that, I think what it brings with it is that world of commons, which is, on the one hand, it has this big, these fantastic sense. I don't want to say fantastic, but fantastic senses of a global unity and the globe as a whole and a global identity. It's right. It's abstracted from the regional, but for me, that's part of why it's a whole slew of things that take us farther and farther away, that make things farther and farther and farther away, because they're all based. My attachment becomes based on me being a global citizen, which is a very interesting idea of how much we actually live. As much as our minds, as more our minds get focused on being a global citizen, how much can we live there, how much do we live there, how much, as opposed to when I listed the environmental problems, it seems more real. It seems like deforestation and global warming and everything. It seems extinction. What seems really to me at the core of the problem is that me as a human is living a life that's spewing out all kinds of nasty stuff into my surroundings. Like that more, and for me, I really like the fundamental, the more anthropocentric, I mean, just me-centric. Me. I'm living a life that's doing this. And that's what the problem is for me, is with me as an individual, and every other person as an individual. And then growing from there, as opposed to starting on the global problem and trying to track it down.